All right, welcome to episode 28, where we're going to be breaking down the Utah Jazz salary cap situation. So let's head over to Fanspo and take a look at the Utah Jazz. So I'm going to go up here and we're going to go down to the Utah Jazz with the worst record in the West with 17-65 record. And let's look at their payroll, and you can see John Collins has got a player option. He's definitely going to opt into that. They have 152 million in payroll. And their oldest player is Jordan Clarkson at 33, and everybody else is 28 and under. Okay, Lauri Markkanen is 28. He is a tremendous trade chip for them because he's got a reasonable contract, and they can get something back for him. Now, one of the rumors that I've been reading, and it's not necessarily a true rumor. All right, so one of the rumors, quote unquote, that got debunked was that the Utah Jazz were trying to get Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics. And the ironic thing about that is that guy named Danny Ainge was the one that drafted him, right, for the Celtics. And so let's look at that scenario. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is just something that's been out there, and people have been talking about they need to break up the Celtics and whatever. And this is not a Celtics rebuild by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see what the Celtics have already done. They have $7 million under the second apron. They've picked up this guy right here, and Mr. Simons, and they cleared like $60 million in payroll with Porzingis and Holiday. Okay. The Holiday trade I actually covered in my Trailblazers video. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check out that video. I did not talk about the Porzingis trade in the Atlanta Hawks video because it was before the trade happened. So some of these videos that I did, I was doing way before the finals. And so I wanted to get them out of the way before the finals ended, but it just worked out that way, that I had some left. And so here we are. So basically, if the Utah Jazz and the Celtics can come to a deal for Jaylen Brown, one thing that they could do is they could, and it depends on what the Celtics want. So, for example, if we want to trade Jaylen Brown to the Jazz, let's just see what happens straight up. Okay? We need to send out $53 million. So we can't just do a straight up deal. But what you could do is you could send Lauri Markkanen to the Celtics. Okay? And now we have a clean cap sheet on both sides. So the Utah Jazz will get Jaylen Brown. The Boston Celtics will get Lauri Markkanen to partner up with Jason Tatum and Derek White and all the other cats here that they have. Now, what I'm going to say about this, as someone that is a Miami Heat fan, and I would love to see this happen because it would just mean that the East is ours for the taking, literally. I don't believe that the Celtics would do this move. And the reason why I say that is it doesn't make any sense to do it. He's 28 years old. And here, let me reset this for a second, just so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. And then we're going to talk more about, obviously, the Utah Jazz, because that's what this video is about. But this pertains to the Utah Jazz. So the reason why you don't do this deal, and if we line them up with the Utah Jazz, because you can see what Danny Ainge is doing in both scenarios, right? They got Lauri Markkanen, Jaylen Brown, same age, right? Jason Tatum, John Collins, same age, right? So if you look at the payroll of the Boston Celtics going forward, this is their biggest year. Then it drops off substantially. Okay, they're down to 170 million. What does that mean? Well, if the luxury tax line, if the second apron goes to 220, let's say next year, or 219 or 218, that means I almost got $50 million to spend on filling out my roster. Okay, and they pretty much have their roster filled out with a few spots that need to be filled or they need to be extended, etc. So what the Celtics did was they went all in with Jrue Holiday and Porzingis, got the championship. Now they're retooling. Okay, but these two guys are your pillars. Okay, They need to keep. I would trade Derek White. I wouldn't give him $28 million. I wouldn't give this guy $27 million. I'd trade these guys. I would keep these two, no matter what. Okay. Now they have plenty of space to work with, and that's really what the Jazz need to do. They need to look. I need to look at their payroll and say, hey, what can we do to shore this up so that we can be competitive? Now I'm going to opt into these deals. Okay. And you can see that their payroll is real low because we got a ton of guys on rookie deals. Okay. And I believe wholeheartedly that that's going to be the future of the NBA. You're going to have one crazy max player for $70 million and everybody else is going to make $5 to $10 million. And that'll be your roster because that's a massive amount of money to give to one guy. Okay. For example, if the cap is $150 million and you get 35% of the cap, that's $52 million. And then you get an 8% raise every year. So that's like 52 plus 4. So 56, 60, 64, and then 68. Okay? So you're getting wild numbers. So yeah, it's a $70 million player. Okay? So, and they get 8% raises every year. Or they can if you give them a max. If you max them out. Now, what you could do, if they're smart with their cap sheet, which you could be, you can give them $60 million flat rate, and then you have more flexibility. Okay? Now, John Collins opted into his option, so we'll give him the $26.5 million deal, right? It'll just be a one-year deal because we're not going to trade him. We're going to keep him. So I'm going to save that. Okay. And now you can see we have $152 million in payroll. So again, and I showed you the trade that they could do if they wanted to get Jaylen Brown. They would have to include a lot of draft picks and whatnot. But that would be a game changer for the Jazz because then you have a franchise player that you can build around. Lauri Markkanen, I don't know that he's a franchise player. He's a good player, but I don't know that he's that player. Okay? Now, another trade that they could do is with my Miami Heat. Right? That's the joke. But they're going to get nothing in return. So, for example, they could do Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson or Andrew Wiggins. Let's give them Andrew Wiggins for Lauri Markkanen. Okay? Okay? That would be a good deal for the Heat because they get even more flexibility. They're way below the apron. They're at $170 million. And he's locked up with Bam Adebayo for the next 4 years. So that would be a great trade. I don't see that happening because Riles and Danny Ainge have this Celtics-Lakers rivalry that will never end. So I don't see that happening. I would love that trade, but I don't think that's going to happen. So they really should just hang tight and build through the draft. And if they just hang tight, you got plenty of runway to rebuild the roster the way that you want. They could get Jaylen Brown, like I said, but I don't think that the Celtics are ready to do that. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, they have. Let me just look at their payroll real quick, and then I'll wrap this up. The Celtics won 61 games. So if you look at their payroll, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are locked up for 4 years. Jaylen Brown for 4 years, Tatum for 5 years with a $71 million player option, which he's not opting out of. He's going to opt into that. Okay? And so basically, you got two $200 million players, okay, that are really good players. They complement each other really well. They've won a championship already. And so that is your foundation. So you build off of that, and then you get role players from there, okay? Because if you look at it, they have about $131 million committed to them in 28-29. Okay? And they'll be, Tatum is 1 year younger, so they'll be Brown will be 32, and Tatum would be 31. Okay, so they have them in their prime. Okay, so this is the time for them to make a run, and I think that after that they may have to trade one of them because if the numbers get too crazy or whatever, um, you know, yeah, the numbers get too wild. That's probably what will happen, but it's up in the air. All right, so there you go. Thanks for checking out Sports by Cap here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can update anytime we upload new content, and check out the latest videos from the show right here.